Hi, everybody. It's Nancy Reyes with For Your Canine.
And Joanne Swiggy with For Better For Worse.
Let us know you're out there. We are going to be talking today with Kim Howatt from Raindrop Canine about essential oils. It's one of the things that we as dog owners have tried for different behavior situations and or just general living. So as Kim and I were talking, oils have changed quite a lot over the years, and we don't process they don't process the same, and there's a lot of information we don't know. A lot of times we hear that, oh, they don't work, it didn't work for my dog. Well, Kim is here to give us a lot of information about how they work and how they don't, and why they work and why they won't. So, Kim, welcome to our Facebook Live. Kim is a longtime advocate, a studier of all that is natural and essential oils and herbs and things like that. So lots and lots of information about that. So one of the big questions we always ask is, how did you get started in really getting into like herbs and things like that? I know I'll be honest, I've dabbled in essential oils with my dogs and for myself, but I haven't really gotten serious about it. So you did. So how did you do that?
For us, it started back in the 90s when our vet suggested we do raindrop therapy on our corgi who had cancer, and he was coming close to his end of life, and it was to help kind of keep him calm. So we did raindrop therapy applications, which went really well. I mean, it helped him. It made him calm. I think his transition was very easy, but I was skeptical. I didn't know anything about it. So then I started using them on myself and experimenting. When you get a mosquito bite, you would use lavender, and if I hurt my knee, I would use like a pain one, and it really helped. And I started to kind of just learn about them, and then using them for dogs when we had an Aussie who was afraid of thunderstorms, and we didn't have so much success with that, but it turned out I didn't really understand. And then a few years ago, Dr. Karen Becker actually was studying what's called applied zoopharmacognosy, and she used our dog Django as a case study. So I got to see firsthand when you do it and the dog gets to choose what's going to help them, because they have this instinct to self-medicate, and that we're not fixing any problem. We're just supporting the animal to rebalance their ecosystem, essentially. He had a fantastic turnaround from rabies vaccinosis and confidence and things like that. So it made me want to pursue it. And now I've had the opportunity, blessed to have the opportunity to study and become a practitioner myself now.
So when Django had that reaction to the rabies, so did you go to Dr. Becker about that, or what did you try before you got to that point?
I didn't know what it was, so we kind of thought we were just making all the mistakes with training and all of that, and but the more we trained, he was super obedient, but he just didn't feel good, and he had chronic pancreatitis, as it turned out. He would throw up maybe 15 times a day. Every couple of weeks, he was losing weight. He was a puppy, 7-8 months old, and he lost 10 pounds. And I mean, that's not, you guys know, that's not good for a puppy.
No.
And so his chronic health issues drove me to just keep looking and researching and reading. And Dr. Becker had sold her practice. So she did recognize the rabies vaccinosis. She was the reason we knew what it was. But then when she moved away, we kind of were back to okay, now what? And I'm kind of that person who advocate for the dog and just figure out as much as I can. And through my own chronic health issues, I've discovered the energetics of, homeopathics, essential oils, herbs, and the same. So he and I, you always get told you get the dog you need. And he and I were on a journey together, and it's been really cool. And it's changed my life, honestly, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, and it actually changed Django a lot.
Yeah.
We've gotten to see him from the day you first came to now. He's kind of not even the same dog anymore. So he's a pretty happy dude all of a sudden. He's a pretty happy guy, and he can handle a lot more
Yeah.
than he used to. Um, so really quickly, what is botanical self-selection? What is that?
Botanical self-selection it's the use of aromatic plants, and it brings a holistic balance to the dog. So again, as the humans, we don't try to fix anything. We allow the dog to choose. So we're honoring the dog by allowing them to choose the method to which they want to help themselves. It honors their choice. And it's called applied zoopharmacognosy, and the zoo means animal, pharmaco means medicine, and the GNOSY, gnosy, means knowing. So for later, I have a video of Zori when she was 9 weeks old. She just instantly started running to our garden and eating kale, collard greens, and carrot greens. And so she's self-selecting. So it's not just essential oils, it's also herbs. I mean, we all know like herbal teas,
Mm-hmm.
like ginger for if you have a digestive upset, chamomile if you want to calm down, arnica for pain, things like that. And the dogs instinctively know what they need to heal themselves. So if you think of it as like health is the state of the body, but wellness is the state of being. So it's all of those things encompassing. And when we consider the body, mind, and spirit, that's what we're talking about, that we trust that they know what they need. Like Zam loves to lay out under a very specific evergreen tree on the cedar mulch. And so those things are bringing her healing through nature. But we don't think of it like that. We're just like, oh, she loves to lay under the tree. But like when you get into the depths of why, it becomes this, it just opens up a whole nother world of how plants are here. Like if you think about it, I mean, we learned it in like grade school science, right? Like plants take in the carbon dioxide that we breathe out and create oxygen for us to breathe. So you can see that symbiosis that exists at the simplistic level. So not even taking into consideration the compounds that each of the plants hold.
And so, yeah, because obviously Zam has other options where to lie down under the
right. She could lay anywhere on the grass, under a hawthorn tree, under something else. And it's really interesting. So like you can go back and find the research. Like one of the most interesting things I think I've read is that there's a cave in Kenya called Kidum Cave, and they can track it back, I think, 8,000 years or so, where the elephants migrate there, go into the caves and rub the mineral salt all over them. Mm-hmm. And so that's essentially what they're doing is self-medicating themselves because they eat such a vegetative diet, they don't get the minerals. So that's how they get the salt minerals.
Oh, I didn't even.
And they travel like long journeys to get there.
Yes.
I have read that one. Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah. This topic is so interesting to me because I think it was like 10 years ago, right, where someone had written a PDF on canine cancer, and he kept talking about if the dog doesn't want to eat something, or if they're, digging in your yard and laying in the dirt, how dirt can be very healing and regenerative, and, don't stop them from doing that. And it was just such a new concept. Have you really found, so, there are some dogs out there who might eat bad things, right? Like like mine. So, I mean, is that innately they're trying to get something? Is there something they're not getting? They're trying to help, like, you know what I mean? Dogs that sometimes are leaning towards unhealthy things. Do you think that's something that they're missing, right? That we aren't giving them?
What do you consider unhealthy, for one? Like, just as an example.
Dog speaker.
Plastic or,
I
mean, unnatural items. Like, not that they're gnawing on bark or eating dirt or something like that, but more, they're
And I think that that's, you know, like, that's really actually an interesting question, because I think with like squeakers and things like that, I mean, if you go back in a dog or, you know, any animal's evolutionary history, like squeakers weren't part of it. So
Right.
they don't inherently know that. So that's where we become the advocate. Like things like antifreeze weren't in their evolutionary history. But like the first like known report of grape poisoning was like 1999. So that's new. So what changed? And there's also studies out there where meerkats will roll grapes in clay to cleanse them before they eat them. So is there a fungus that's now there? Is it pesticide spray? You know, it could be any of a lot of things, but they also, like with xylitol being in peanut butter, for example, the peanut actually still is something that's super healthy. The xylitol isn't, which is why we have to be so careful with what we allow them. I mean, we would never offer that to them. And then some other things maybe are like laced with a sweetener or something and very enticing. So there's a you know, a multitude of reasons why they would go for something. But you know, really hard to get in and ask the dog, I guess, but
that does make sense though, right? These aren't things that were in their world inherently. So
right.
They can't make that choice. So
right.
Okay.
So our goal is to try to offer them things that make sense, that have been around. I mean, plants have been around for 700 million years, which is like way older than us. So
Interesting.
So what is the history of essential oils?
It goes back far. Like you can take it back to, I mean, obviously the Bible, you know, gold, frankincense, myrrh, spikenard, galbanum, cinnamon. Those oils are all referenced in the Bible multiple times. But if you even go back farther than that to like Cleopatra, I mean, she was known to like bathe in the Dead Sea, but what she was known for was her beauty. And so they were used in perfumes like the Roman bathhouses. There's a guy named Gadaphos from 1910 who had a lab, and it exploded and it burned him, and he didn't know what to do. He was like, arm was on fire, so he dunked it in a like bowl of lavender, and he didn't have any permanent damage, and he didn't know what he was doing. It was something to cool his arm off. I mean, it could have been water, but it happened to be lavender. And so he started doing more research on the medicinal properties of oils and aromatic plants in particular. And then another guy, Jean Valnet, in the Indochina War, was a doctor surgeon, and they ran out of antibiotics. And he started using clove, lemon, and whatever herbs he had in it helped prevent gangrene and infection. So, you know, there's a lot of study and research that go back to how it helps.
Sorry. My 13-year-old, she's going to play with a squeak toy now. It's great.
That's why my dogs went away.
So with the, you know, aromatherapy is getting very popular, right, in the last 5-10 years with people and with animals. Not naming names, but there's a lot of mainstream companies that are out there. What is the actual, I mean, I know it's purity, but what is truly the difference between what I can buy, say it, you know, online, or what I would have to go to someone who actually sells them or makes them?
Yeah, you definitely want to know the source, because the minute that like pesticides get put on the plants, now you know the chemical structure of it has changed. So you definitely want to do your research and understand the where you're getting the pure essential oils. And like I can have them from different places, and they smell very different. So just like when like citrus oils degrade very fast, they oxidize very fast. So their shelf life is really only 6 months, maybe a year if you're lucky, if you store them properly. But like you can smell, and like the energetics just leave. I mean, it just isn't the same. So I don't know if you've had like olive oil or something, some kind of oil go rancid, and you can smell it. You're like, oh, that just doesn't smell good. So it would be similar to that. but you do want to be very, very careful of where, like, you don't want to, you know, I can't imagine like going to buy them off Amazon.
Well, that's actually a really, really nice comparison that you used, which is olive oil, right? If for those of us who cook, right, you can go buy the grocery store brand olive oil, or you can actually buy a specialty olive oil, which, you know, costs quadruple the price, but the flavor and the thickness and the consistency is so much different.
Yes.
The same with essential oils, I'm guessing.
Yes, and it's like you can buy a really nice olive oil and it smells great. And you can buy the cheap kind and you're just like, man, it's just different. And so essential oils will be very much the same. And you know, I buy them from different places because different places have different oils, but the ones that are very forthcoming about where they're sourced from, you know, those are, you get the background story on the sourcing, and you know, and they're not afraid to tell you those are like great sources. I mean, I personally use Still Point Aromatics. There's a like super small place called Kathy Zatar's that I use. You know, Young Living, doTERRA have been around for a very long time.
So Tracy mentioned something which I think is so interesting. 2 of her dogs said 2 months before there was a cancer diagnosis, they were eating dirt. So it goes back to thinking like maybe they're trying to heal themselves somehow.
Yeah, you know, and it's very possible. I mean, I know Django eats, we have a smoker, so we, you know, use real wood, but he eats the charcoal remnants sometimes, and charcoal is a known binder. And we used to micromanage it and like yell at him, oh my God, stop doing that. And now it's like, oh, well, I guess you need it. And then I would think in my head, okay, what oil can I offer him, or what herb can I offer him to help process that through? But he does have the pancreatitis issue, so he may, if he gets too much fat, need to like bind something up and get rid of it. There was also another story about, and I don't remember off the top of my head the guy's name, but he was studying chimpanzees, and they would eat these Ophelia leaves whole, and they had little hairs on them, and they would swallow them whole, and then parasites would like get stuck in the hairs, much like a fly in a spider's web, and they would pass them. And so they, you know, it was a way for them to, like an antiparasitic. So when they're consuming something in the yard, like wood or grass or a weed, you know, it's not necessarily, we always kind of heard, oh, well, they want to make themselves puke, but that might not be true. We've had dogs that went out and ate grass and wanted to throw up. And we've had dogs go eat grass and they just eat grass for, you know, it's for a different, probably medicinal reason. I actually downloaded an app on my phone that identifies a plant when you take a picture of it. So when the dogs start consuming something in the yard, I'm like, I can take a picture and say, why, what were they eating and why? And then I can kind of get a why. Was it a digestive aid? Was it
right? Or something, or nausea or something like that.
Right.
So I have a random question, only because we've gotten this question probably a lot over the course of the year on different topics. And I know you'll talk about like how to figure things out, but poop eaters, right? Are they, I mean, have you dealt with that? Are they missing something? Do they need something? Is that something you have experience with?
Sometimes. And I, you know, like another thing that like I'm totally interested in studying is the functional characters of like a dog pack. Like, so when a litter's born, there's somewhere between 8 and 10 different personalities and roles that they'll serve in the pack. And so sometimes it might be a very maternal thing where they're just eating it to clean up. Sometimes it might be because they're missing something. And I think that there's probably more to that story that you would have to make an assessment about. Might be a mineral, might be a, you know, something like if they eat another dog's poop, the other dog might be emitting something that they want. They might be doing it to clean up. Like I never knew, like Django pees in the swimming pool sometimes, but not all the time. So you fill up his swimming pool, and we thought he was kind of being like, all right, mine. But in reality, his functional character as a guide, he's hiding his smell because there's probably a coyote in the vicinity. And when I say the vicinity, a mile or two, because we all know how canine noses are so, 10,000, 100,000 times better than ours. I mean, somebody once gave me the analogy that if a human could see 20/20 vision for a quarter a mile, a dog could do it for 14 miles if you were translating the smell into the sight.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's, it's incredible how much they can smell. So
yeah, it is. And yeah, they'd know if there was somebody that's not, so could you walk us through a little bit? Like, I know previously we would put the oils on the dogs, and now it's not, I guess I hate to say okay, but now it's not really done that way. Could you talk about why and how you use the oils for the dogs?
Okay, because they're like essential oils in particular are very, very strong. So when you think about applying them on a dog, and I mean, we did it for years. You know what you know at the time that you know it, and then you grow and learn. So now what we realize is the biggest way that dogs use the oil is to inhale. So inhalation. So they'll inhale. They might inhale from a foot or 10 feet. I mean, thinking about nose work, they know darn well when a room's empty. So, I mean, we don't, but they certainly do. And so typically how I would start would be I would open the bottle and just do nothing else, because they could be anywhere in the house and know that I've opened a bottle of oil. And if they're interested in it, they'll come to it. If I feel like they're giving me signals that they really want it applied to them, I take a drop or two and I put it on a towel, and then they can lay on it if they need it applied, or if they need it applied in a space where they can't. They'll come and tell you. Typically I've had Django back up into me and say, I want this on me, or even just in the energy field, a little bit off of him. They might lick it, so they might want to ingest it. So you can put a drop in your hand and let them lick it. And then topical application would be, their choice. We shouldn't ever say, oh, there's a thunderstorm and they're scared of it, I'm going to put lavender all over them. Because they just the methodology is that they always need space to get away when they're finished. And they may process for 5 minutes, 20 minutes, or 3 hours. I mean, it's dependent on what it is. There's we use, I use these little perfume sticks.
Oh, okay.
So they're perfume tester sticks. So you would take, to prevent the oil oxidizing in the bottle, if they say yes, if they come over and show interest, then you can put a drop on it, and then they can come over and get by it, or they can get away from it.
Oh, okay.
And they could lick it if they wanted to lick it. They could lick it. But sometimes for some dogs, essential oils are frankly too strong. So the next, a lesser, but not less potent, type of product is called a hydrosol. So if you think of when the essential oil is they steam distill it, and the volatile molecules come to the top, and that's what creates the oil. And then the water filtration off the bottom still has the energetics, but they're less potent. And it's called a hydrosol. So a hydrosol is really just water with the essence of the essential oil in it. And those can be much less potent and taken the same way. They'll tend to ingest those more because it's water. They might want to drink them. I mean, I spray them in water for myself. So they can drink them. They could roll on them if you sprayed them on a towel, or they might want to just take the essence of the odor. But if you think of the vomeronasal organ that's at the base of the nasal cavity, when the dog inhales the odor, they do a grimace. I mean, the cheek puffing that happens in nose work class and all. That's a direct line to their limbic system, which means they're most likely processing something emotional.
Melanie was asking, are there oils that are toxic to dogs? Which I'm guessing yes.
Yes. I mean, most are generally regarded as safe, but there are definitely some that you want to be very, very careful with. And there's also conditions that you wouldn't use for a specific dog. And actually, it's this beautiful book, Essential Oil Safety, that I would highly recommend. So, because if they're on a pharmaceutical drug, there are contraindications like, as an example, German chamomile is known as a blood thinner. So if you or even the person, you have to be careful with the person also. So if the person's on a blood thinner, they shouldn't spend that's not a good oil choice. We would look for another one that would serve the same purpose, but maybe not affect them so much. So yeah, you have to be very careful because they are potent. And I think that's where a lot of people are kind of like spreading the word about essential oils and aromatics, but they're not spreading the safety portion of that. So you definitely want to work with them safely.
Yeah, wasn't there one, I think for humans, like if you use lavender oil with your baby boy too much, it can actually stunt testosterone production in your baby, I believe. At least that's what somebody told me, right? So it's funny, all the things we don't know.
Right. Some of it, I mean, and like, there's like a chemical, I mean, if you think about like homeopathy, I mean, arnica and all of those things, they're aromatic plants create homeopathy, but they're also the basis for our pharmaceuticals. So there's a chemical compound in birch and wintergreen, actually called salicylate, that is aspirin. So you want to be very careful with that too. It's also would be blood thinning. So you want to make sure that you understand, like, if the dog is on medications, if the person's on medications, if there's allergies too. You know, you wouldn't want to give some dog that has a family that has a nut allergy almond bitter, for example. So, you know what I mean? There's like, there's a lot of things to think about. It's not just this benign product.
Right.
So that's why you're so about letting them choose, right? Because if inherently an animal knows what's going to happen to them for the most part. So if you were to offer that, they would be like trying to get into the next room probably, right?
Oh yeah. And actually there's like a great experiment, and it's like, you know, I can do it because I have the stuff, but like we have a bag of licorice root powder. And so somebody asked once, how does a dog know when they've had enough? You know, I mean, come on, like, how do they know? But like, if you do the experiment with licorice root powder, it could be milk thistle or something else. But like, as a human, stick your finger in and lick it. And for me, it like took 3 tries when I did it the first time. And I licked it. It was really sweet, like cinnamon sugary. I mean, it was really good. And the second lick, you do it again. Did it taste the same? And I'm like, yeah, it was really sweet. That was great. So I'm like, third time, yeah. Oh my God. And it was so bitter. And so that's how they know, because my body said, now it's not good anymore. So like, and it's a great, I mean, it just is a great way to like understand how the dogs are reacting to it, because they'll be just like, yep, had enough. And again, like Zori, our puppy, she's hilarious when she processes an oil, but when she's done, and she just leaves. And Django, he's the one that just kind of falls into processing all kinds of different oils, but you know, he's always been like I said, he's my mate. He's like been the one that's there with me. And Zam, I would tell you in the past, she didn't have any interest in it, but she just processes from much farther away. And part of it's like an interesting thing. I wonder if there's something to that with, like, you know, if you think about the properties of birch, anise, and clove in nosework, why one dog wouldn't maybe want to get so close to one.
Anise, right, Melanie?
So Judy had asked, who's the author of the Essential Oil Safety book?
It's Tisserand and Young. So Robert Tisserand, Tony Balax, and It's a great book. It's a little bit like, you wouldn't want to read it like a novel, but looking up the specific purposes, it's great.
It's a reference manual.
It's exactly that.
Yeah.
So Kathy's asking about, what oils are best for nervous dogs for thunderstorms. Is that something that people can contact you and you work with them to help them find an appropriate oil or oils for their dogs?
Oh yeah, and because there's several that fall into the category of helping with anxiety, but there's always more to the story, and every dog is going to be unique. I mean, we always were like, ooh, give your dog lavender, and like lavender is not something that we use in our family. Like it's just not something our dogs like, and we don't love the smell of it, except if we burn ourselves or if you get a mosquito bite and it cuts the itching, and it does, and I'll tolerate it for like instances like that. But I remember, Nancy, it was when you had your Suzanne Clothier weekend, actually, and I got a text in the middle of it, and my husband broke his collarbone.
Yes, he did.
And I was just like completely freaking out. And I went and I got him home from the hospital, and I went to make dinner, and I literally went to the pot that was on the stove barehanded and picked it up and pulled it off the stove, and I dropped it. And my hands I couldn't make a fist. And I'm like, oh, this is great now. Now what? Like I'm walking around like this, and I'm like, lavender oil. And I went and I just doused my hands in lavender. I woke up the next day and I never even had a blister. So it's incredibly powerful. And, it burned for a while, but like it really just took it right away. And so like if I'm thinking of like anxiety, it's like things like cedar will ground and reduce panic. Cypress soothes frazzled emotions. Frankincense can quiet anxiety. Vetiver is very grounding. So you look for, like, if you think about the structure of a plant, it can tell you a lot. So if you're looking for calming and grounding, you try to find roots. So ginger root, vetiver, angelica root, the trunk, and the root also like holds nutrients and water. The trunk is like the protection. It's the bark and the trunk, and then there's the leaves and the fruits and the seeds and the nuts, and they all serve a different purpose, but there's a lot of crossover as well.
What we can do, what's a good oil for a needy cat?
I don't like you wouldn't. Why do you want her to leave?
Yeah, well, he's not going to, no matter what. So
he's enhancing the conversation.
Yes, he is.
So that's so interesting because I'll do teas, and I love dandelion tea, but dandelion root tea, ugh. It's way too strong and like rooty and earthy, and I just don't like it. So it's funny that same plant, right? Same, but completely different flavor, completely different makeup.
Right, and completely, but not necessarily completely different. One might be more intensive, like liver cleanser, or but they both are gonna probably serve that same purpose. So,
so Kim, because I know we have a few questions, but I know you had some video about how your dog's processing some of the oils. So this might answer some of your questions. And because Lori was asking, how do you determine how to use them? So Kim has some video on how to do that. Yeah, that's a good question, Kim. She says some of the oils that you mentioned are used in nose work. So do you just choose another? Hopefully the dog might choose another, hopefully.
Rather than a nosework oil?
Like vetiver they use in UKC.
Or cypress.
Or cypress they use in UKC.
AKC and C-Wags and
cypress, vetiver, and myrrh, like the 3 extra ones, right? I mean, like that aren't in NACSW.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They're in the other event. So yeah, you'd have to probably check around and check other, use other oils. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, is there a reason that they couldn't process that? I mean, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. It's like what
we use we use vetiver and like actually our dogs, when they're in some pain, we've used birch, and they process it. They don't they know that it's not nose work. They know it's different.
Yeah. And that's really funny because I remember when Amy Hero was here, she was talking about NACSW had paid to have a study done, and what they found was dogs that had were exposed to lower levels of the oils actually became stronger in the hunt, in the sport, right? And it didn't seem to bother them at all. So like if you had your odor kit inside your house and the dog knows it's not doing nose work, it actually didn't harm them at all. So I found that really interesting. Do you remember her saying that, Nance?
Yeah, God, that was a long time ago. Yeah,
it was, but I found that super interesting. I'd like to see that study and just see what they really found.
Yeah, I haven't seen it affect our dog's drive in nose work at all.
No, sure. Especially Django. He's a maniac.
So, I mean, I don't even, I try not to wear, I wouldn't play with the oils, and I don't typically do selection in the couple hours before we go to nose work. And I would never do it the day before a trial or the day of a trial. I mean, just so that they weren't in a mode, but I don't know if that's right or wrong. I mean, that's me and
my
head.
Sure.
It can be a scary place.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you this video, and I think it's a big testament to how far away a dog can be to process an odor or want to. This is Django processing an oil called Nagarmotha, which is typically good for respiratory, but also very meditative and grounding. And he's processing it straight away, but about a minute into the video, you see Zam walk up, and she's very rarely ever interested, and she was asleep on the other side of the house where Jim was working. So it's really, really interesting and telling, I think.
Okay, so are you upload, because I don't have it yet?
Yeah, I had to put it in the right spot. These silly conversions they make you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because actually, yeah. Okay, I got it.
So Django's right on top of the bottle there. And now he's kind of had enough. It's pretty strong coming out of the bottle. And this is from a while ago. And I would now today, I would take that and probably put it on an aroma stick, but I just kind of let it happen because it caught me off guard. And so now he's probably 5 or 6 feet away. And this is a pretty typical processing. You can see his nose is going towards the bottle. His breathing is really calm. He's blinking.
Mm-hmm.
The ears are back. You can see the nose scruffling. So he's very much into processing this oil. And as long as he's ready to be there, then we're going to let it process. We don't want to rush it. It's his choice. Now, the other piece of this, and you can't hear it, but we're getting some work done right outside this door that you can kind of see. And there's pounding, hammers pounding, and he normally would bark. Now there's Zam. So she wants in to the area. So she came from across the house, and she wants to come in now and process this oil too.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And it's silent, right? So for that dog to come, you have to assume, right? It was the smell just wafting through the house.
Yep, and that's how fast it got across the house. And she was probably, our house is more long than deep, so she was probably 50 feet away. And, she just came wandering in. Do you still have the other one that you can share?
I do.
And this is the end result, honestly. So I put some on an aroma stick now, and that's the result of Zam laying right underneath of it, and now Django's just completely zen. And there's hammering going on outside our house, which is amazing because normally they would be barking and going nuts.
They look like they need cartoons and Doritos. So, Ronnie, what oil was that again?
It's called Nagarmotha, Nagarmotha.
Ronnie's like, we're gonna put it all over our house. She's got Aussies too. She's got Aussies too, Kim. So Ronnie has Aussies too. She goes, we're gonna live with that. So what happens when they've had enough of that? Like, they just leave, or is that what they do?
Yeah. And that's what you want to make sure of, is that you give them space to go away. So they could go to the other side of the house. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I think Django laid there for a couple of hours, but eventually they'll just get up and walk away. So that's why you don't apply it. And like, if you think about like when you leave the house, you don't want to put an oil if they're in a crate, like right next to them. You want to put it in like a hydrosol would be fine, because it's, again, less. It's just the essence and the water filter. So you could probably place a hydrosol close to the crate, but you just want to give them the ability to escape from it when they've had enough.
Judy's, I need this for my border collie mix. Everybody's gonna want that, you know.
I think it might not be a super expensive one. So
yeah, Lori asked, how do you determine how to use it? Like, do you put it in a diffuser? Do you dilute it? Do you put it on the stick and let them smell it? Like, is there different? Is it different? I mean, if you were to, hydrosol it like you said, or you put it on the stick, or you put it on the towel, or, I mean, what's the difference for the dog?
The dog is gonna, like, a dog who, like, if you have a dog who has, like, if you were gonna say to me, this doesn't work on my dog, it's very possible that you're right, but more likely than not, I think that it's the wrong odor and they want something different. It might be too strong, in which case you could try the hydrosol. Sometimes there's, like, you got to think of, like, dogs are like ogres, and ogres are like onions, that they have layers, right? So you may be like trying to approach it from the wrong layer as well. I always start with inhalation when I give an oil. So I would take the cap off and just see, observe the dog. I mean, are they, like, there's yawning. The one video that I wanted, like, it says it's, the processing on the conversion didn't work, but it's perfect because it's Zam after she first came into the room, and she's processing the Nagarmotha, and she's yawning and blinking a lot and, like, calming herself. And I have one of Zori that is going to be really useful too, to show it, because she shows kind of all of these behaviors. But they're going to tell you, I mean, really the biggest no is turning the head away and, like, leaving. So you don't want to chase after them with it. I literally just open it and see what the reaction is. I don't shove it in their face, but if they come up to it and they want to come up to it, I absolutely let them. And then I never let them have the bottle, because, I mean, I don't even want to think about what could happen. So the bottle's always, like, in my hand, or I'll put it on the floor where I can grab it. But we don't have dogs that really try to grab it. The video of Zori, she's kicking it around, but she's not trying to grab it. And she was trying to get some out so that she could lick it.
Do you have that video or no?
Yeah, I do. It's a little bit longer, but we can talk over it. It's weird how I have to put it in this folder to, like, get it to actually.
Yeah.
So,
but
Judy asked what the hydrosol is. Judy, it's a little bit of the diluted oil, so there's more water in it, so it's less potent.
So this is German chamomile, and she was about 8.5 months old when this was taken. So she's getting a little hormonal and, growing. So this is German chamomile is good for, I mean, you name it, it's good for helping balance hormones. It's good for pain. It's good for grounding and calming. It's a pretty potent oil. But again, there's Django just in his trance. And then you watch the puppy, and she spilled some notes. Now she's like going to like lick it up.
I'm never used to seeing Django so
chill. Calm. I know, it's crazy, and he loves when we do like selection sessions, and it's good for him because it has helped like calm him down and balance him back. So she's licking up what spilled on the floor, but she's getting right up on it.
Myself.
So you'll see her like she's standing over it now. Like nose licking, lip licking, all of that is a sign of substantial processing. And then she'll start, I mean, she's just hilarious. So she's really liking this oil. Now she's going to dig, like a little nesting, a little stretching. And she's, that was like the vomeronasal organ. Now she's like limbic system. She wants that in the limbic system. So she's, and Django's just like, I should
a bag of Cheetos.
I should qualify that this is probably 2 weeks after they started being able to like live in the same space.
Yeah.
So, and this is part of how we helped create a calmer environment for them. The first day when Django broke out and they ended in the same space, I had towels all over the floor with hydrosols on them. And like one of the best hydrosols, honestly, or oils is rose. Like the best way to think about rose is it's a hug in a bottle.
Mm.
So it kind of like is really uplifting. And that's why, you know, women like to get roses for gifts.
That's right. So Karen asked if it's okay for them to lick the oil even though it's strong.
Yeah, because she's choosing to do it. So I'm not, you know, Django didn't want to lick it, so he's not, and Zori did. And typically when they do a barking behavior like that, they're releasing emotion, and then it's followed by some calming behavior. So now she laid down and she's licking the floor and kind of licking her paw, so she's calming herself.
There's not like a ton of oil on the floor anyway, right?
No, it was like it's thick. It's a super thick oil, so probably a drop came out, maybe two.
Hmm. I think is that what Tango's doing, releasing emotions when he's barking?
Probably.
He's very emotional. Oh my God. Oh, so yeah, because Karen, the little dropper doesn't let much out anyway. So,
no.
Yeah.
So I have not heard you talk about a diffuser. Are you not a fan?
No, same deal as like applying to the dog. It's going to disperse that throughout your house. So what if the dog's had enough of it after 5 minutes or 10 minutes? You know, that odor's still going to stay in the air for a long period of time. So how, like if I want like the benefit of the oil, I'll put it on a stick, or, you know, just go in the other room and like sniff the cap and put it back on, because humans realistically aren't all that different from dogs. So, I mean, we have the same vomeronasal organ that they do, and, you know, they're just better at it than we are.
Mm-hmm.
They're also better at knowing when they've had enough than humans are as well. So.
Well, and that's it's absolutely true. Good one.
And that is absolutely true. Have you ever so going back to just clarify, if you get an oil and your dog doesn't like it, it's because you're asking the wrong question, right?
Right, or they just don't like that one. You know, they're like, if you have like a problem with like anxiety, or they're just high strung, or, you know, they're afraid of noise, you know, when you want to calm the nervous system, there's many choices for oils that calm the nervous system. So if that one didn't work, another one might. Mm-hmm. But there's also like, you have to look at the picture holistically, because at the same time is an over aroused dog in pain. which could be,
Right.
are they having digestive distress? Is there something else to go on? So this, it's all information. And I think that's the thing. Like when a dog doesn't want an oil and doesn't seem to respond to it, are you looking at the right piece of them holistically? Or if they're consistently going for this oil for pain, that's it. To me, it's information that I would go see the vet and like look a little deeper into a situation. So it's really like working with the oils and doing the botanical self-healing is really a symbiotic relationship with the vet, with the guardian, with the dog, and
right. Well, yeah, because then if you think there might be some pain involved, you definitely want
right. And they don't show us pain, right? I mean, they're so, some do more than others, but I mean, there's, Zam's our battle tank, and she'll, all of a sudden it's critical, like she can't walk on one leg or something and she's thrown her knee out, but we didn't know it because she doesn't limp or show it. So, but if you offer her the choice of like the oils, then she may start showing signs and a pattern of things. So it's really, again, it's the observation skills.
Let's see. What was it? Wait, I had another question that came up. What you had mentioned about certain conditions that oils do, like to keep the dog in balance. I know you talk a lot about that, like keep them in, give them support and balance, especially like in many cases, anxiety for some of the dogs that are really anxious, and they have not only, specific anxiety, but maybe more generalized anxiety.
Like what oils for generalized anxiety? Or
normally, what do you, with a dog, like with a dog that has some generalized anxiety, you let them, you decide, you find the oil that works, and then how often would you allow them, give them the oil, I guess, or let them smell it or process it?
I would offer it every day.
Okay.
And then chances are after a specific amount of time, like you would see them process it less time and then be like, yeah, I don't need that today. And there may be another layer after that, though. I mean, there's, through the classes I've taken, we've watched and had presenters come and show us video and case study of her going to rescues and shelters and helping unadoptable dogs become adoptable within like 8 or 9 sessions.
Okay.
So, they're going back and through the list of things she's offered, there's, probably 20.
Yeah.
So it's, in any one like botanical session I do with our dogs, I mean, chances are they're probably like ingesting 6 different herbs like rose hips, spirulina, and like spirulina and barley grass. Those things are like, they're needing more minerals. There's something they're processing something through that's making them a little more deficient. Zam's been known to have some kind of bladder issues. So cleavers are huge for like kidney bladder meridians and stuff. So she'll eat cleavers, and chamomile flowers are very anti-arthritic. So she'll go through those. She's 13. And then certain hydrosols she doesn't usually drink them. She still just takes them in an inhalation form, but they could ingest them. And then for her to find an oil, I think like one session I did was lemongrass and ginger, which are digestive. So.
Wow, that's like, do you do like for those? Do you do like a selection session for like see what the dog chooses and kind of?
Yeah, and I actually had I had some video of that, but like I was wearing pajamas, so you're not gonna see them.
You had your Cheetos and cartoons on.
No one needs to see the Star Wars pajamas.
Oh, So then let's say they pick an oil that seems to. Do you still try other oils to see if that change that up? If you think that you found one that might be working, would you find another one that maybe maybe is better, or you always change it up for the dog? Is that something you would recommend?
I don't think that there's a better. So if I do a full session with them, they're usually pretty excited by it. And kind of the minute they get into that trance-like state that you saw with Django and Zam, and even Zori at the end of the German chamomile one, as soon as they hit that state, like, you're done then.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like they'll process through that, and then typically they'll get up and walk away and just be like, yeah, I'm good. And so we do it in a room, and they'll just walk into another room of the house or walk away. So, but sometimes, like we were talking before about when the oils don't work, and realistically, if the dog's too anxious or too stressed out, like, they may not be interested. So you may have to do make sure, they have to be in the right frame of mind. So the first time it might just be kind of being in the room with stuff, and then they'll become curious about it if it's something that they're really going to get helped by.
So I'm gonna save these selection things to the end, because I do want to ask her how to get in touch with her. But all right, so Deb says, are oils something you can offer like in anticipation? So when spring comes and you're never sure if there's going to be a thunderstorm or not, is it something that you can maybe have on a towel and like leave out in a room?
Yes, prevention is a huge, like, that's great. So we're blessed to kind of know most of the time, like a day before a thunderstorm or something. So you absolutely, like, when like with fireworks and stuff, like you would start doing calming and grounding and keeping your dog's arousal level down a week or two before, just to already have them in that state of more zen. So you're going to find that, I think most, families would find that they're going to have their ally. They're going to have 5 or 6 oils that are kind of their go-tos. Like one for us, of course, is one of the most expensive around. It's Pink Lotus. And I mean, it's the entire family, like, just stops and like kind of goes zen. So if we have a point where something happened and there was stress, like all the workers outside or something, we can sit down at night with Pink Lotus just on a stick, and everyone just goes calm. So it's really nice.
I'm gonna get that for Tango.
And it's like, but it's, everyone's going to be different. And you've heard it said before, I'm sure, what one man's medicine is another's poison. So what one likes, another may not. And I'd say my kit probably has 120 different oils in it. And we maybe in our family are 10, but my 10 are completely different from somebody that was in my class. Like, they love ginger, and ginger makes me cough. So.
Right. So let's see. Mary had a question. Do oils have an impact on medical issues as well as for example, inflammation, canine virus, thereby reduce the need for vaccination and antibiotics? I would never ever say that it replaces a vet ever, but it is absolutely can help with inflammation. But the vaccination thing is between, the human and the vet. That's personal choice, how you go about that. Because we're not, we're not fixing or curing anything, we're supporting. But yes, I know, if I work out and my knees hurt, I have my go-to oil. So I rub it down on my knees and I'm fine in a couple of hours. So.
Yeah. I would think scientifically, when it comes to vaccinations, you're not going to prevent a disease. You might prevent or reduce symptoms, perhaps, if they were to get said disease. But, right. I don't know that I would.
I'm not gonna ever make any claim like that. I think, it's
Right.
That's why you like always would work with your vet and say, I want to do botanical self-selection, is it safe? And then again, taking the conditions into account that the dog has or what medications they're on. But yeah, I've sure used them on myself when I've had a cold or whatever, and it can help symptomatically. But the whole goal of looking at the situation holistically is to find the root of the problem. I mean, you could use oils every single day on a dog with anxiety, but what's the root of the anxiety? Sure. Is it pain? Is it a digestive issue? So there's just that whole series, and the only way you're going to know, again, it's information, is if you help a dog with their anxiety and it comes back again. And then you help them with their anxiety and it comes back again. Okay, well, it's great that we're helping with the anxiety and to like bring those levels down, but what's causing it? Did something change in the environment? Did a new dog come and live next door that barks all the time? Is there, did a cleaning product change? Or, it could be a lot of different things.
Right. That makes sense. Because it's like, it's very similar to what, you got to get to the root of the problem before you can fix it. Otherwise you're doing nothing but putting Band-Aids on it until.
Right. It's covering symptoms a lot, like,
Right.
Yeah, which is why it really helps to work with a vet as well, right? You can reduce the symptoms, but if they keep coming back, there's, I love, the Eastern medicine and all of the natural stuff, but in the core of it, sometimes, you do have to resort to Western medicine. It's good too.
It's absolutely, there's cause for all of it. You live, and that's why, like, we all do like the best thing we can to prevent something from happening, right? You eat nutritionally, you get enough sleep, you take care of self-care. And so really we're just helping our dogs with self-care. That's the support of this, but it's never a replacement. It's an addendum to, like, the vets have the knowledge.
Right.
About the true problem and the tests. And then this can be like the supportive function for, helping through it. So,
yeah. So Audrey was asking, does using the same oil all the time lose some of the efficacy? Like, right? Do you have to change it, or can you use it? If you used it every day for a month and the dog's still choosing it, it doesn't reduce anything?
No, they're still choosing it. So, like I said, Pink Lotus is our family ally, and that's been, we're probably going on. We don't use it every single night, but I don't think that's going to change at this point. Like, whatever it does for our, our family cohesiveness, it's like we all love it. So, it's been months and months, 6 months, 7 months since we started using it. So
nice. I know of someone who went through the human training, and I had heard you really shouldn't use the same essential oil more than 3 days in a row. But I think too, right, there's the diffusing, so you can't get away from it. It's going until it runs out of oil, so all of that, right? And we as humans, like I said, sometimes it's hard for us, unless it makes you feel bad or gives you a headache or something, you don't realize that it's not having a good effect anymore.
No, and I'll be the first to tell you, I probably have 10 diffusers through the house. I was a huge diffuser. That's because it's how we learned.
Yeah.
And with Raindrop Therapy, and Jim and I went through going to a therapist and got Raindrop Therapy for years. But, it's like you stunk for a while after, and, at some point you're just like, all right, this can go away now. And, so you were done. It was great while it was happening, but,
then then you can't get away from it. Yeah.
Our dogs can't say, holy crap, like, wash this off me, you know? So that's why they will ask for it to be applied. And sometimes like green clay is like, dogs will want that applied to them if they have skin allergies, because it's a great like helper for skin coat and condition. But I tend to I have a big yoga mat that I do selection sessions on. So I'll just spread it out on that and they can roll in it if they want to. And so I noticed that Zam tends to do that. She'll lay across the herbs when she doesn't want to ingest them anymore, but she's still laying on them. And then she tracks like little rosehip seeds like throughout the whole house. So,
So somebody asked, or I think we had talked, one of the things we're going to talk about is I know that we talked about a little bit about toxicity, but has there ever been where a dog like was licking it or ingested too much of it and there was an issue, or no?
I mean, I don't know of that, but
yeah. Well, I'm assuming not, because they can.
Chances are, like, I mean, there is the potential. And I know, again, when Dr. Becker came, like, and it depends, like Caroline Ingraham is kind of the pioneer of what's called applied zoopharmacognosy. She's out of the UK. And I know one of the kind of methodologies she used, and Dr. Becker used it on Django, was the purge. So it's like kind of offering them something like coconut oil and like letting them just eat it. And I remember he went through half a bucket, like a half a like container of coconut oil, and then proceeded to walk outside and poop and puke, but he had a blockage of some sort. So he needed it and he was fine. But now, knowing what I know, he's got chronic pancreatitis. I wouldn't do that again, because too much fat for him is a bad idea. So, but like everyone, again, that's what they knew when they knew it. And now 10 years later, you know so much more and you understand more. So you have to just keep learning and growing and evolving with the process. So, I mean, I've seen our dogs just ingest a whole lot of spirulina, and then they're, number twos turn green, but like that's not
horrible.
No, and if you were worried, you can always stop.
Yeah.
There's another part of the aromatic called a macerate, and it's basically like a carrier oil, like rice bran oil or almond oil, avocado oil, something, and then you mash up like the leaves of like arnica for pain. And you would absolutely limit that to like a tablespoon or two. You wouldn't let them just ingest a lot of a macerate.
Well, yeah, because it's all the fat, right?
Correct. And so with the oils, they're not going to like, going back to the licorice root, like for me, it was 3 little licks and I was done. They're going to be done.
Yeah. All right.
And it's sort of like, I don't know if like you guys raw feed, but
I do.
Like when you first start, but you haven't always raw fed, right?
No.
So the first time you did it freak you out? I mean, I'm giving my dog raw meat.
Yeah, it was an adjustment.
But like, it's sort of like that, like, oh my God, like, this is so crazy. Like, I can't believe I'm like throwing like a chicken in the, and it's sort of like that with oils. Like you wonder if it's going to be okay. And then you start to watch the process, and it's a beautiful process when you watch how you're honoring the dog, and like it builds trust in the partnership and the relationship too, by trusting that they know. And we micromanage our dogs so much. And it's like, this is a way that we can offer them choice. And we've even started feeding them where like they get their little pile of pumpkin and they get their broccoli and they get their meat and they get them, it's all separated. So if they don't want to eat something tonight, which never happens, they don't have to. But like if they wanted to leave like something that they didn't like I think we were giving Zam fermented green beans and she didn't want them, so she just left them. But we didn't mash it all in the bowl. We fed them separate. And that's just, it's another way that we were offering choice to them. And
I'm sure she still would have picked it out if she wanted to.
Yes, she would have.
They're good at that.
Zam's, she doesn't do what she doesn't want.
No.
So what does Radho do, right? Like if I contacted you and said, "Hey, I'm interested in the selection process." I mean, what do you do? What are you going to offer?
Radho is new. So it's being built as we speak. I retired from my job actually to do this a couple of months ago. I think tomorrow will be 2 months to the day, in fact. So I do partnership coaching. So like, and more along the lines of helping people understand arousal and the need for sleep and the 3 needs and those kinds of topics, so that then, they can go work with someone wonderful like Nancy. And on like, the more obedience training and the skills set, but to understand the dog communication and language, and like, do you wait for a dog to come and ask for petting, or do you like reach your hands out and, for consent, that kind of thing. The Botanical SelfSelection consulting work, of course, is going to be a huge part of it. And I'm at the point of needing case studies. So that's a good thing. And then I'm also very interested in, I'm also very interested in like the functional characters of the pack, and I'm studying, you're in too. So I'm very much into
the comments are going to start coming too. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm into the functional characters of the pack and the roles that each animal plays, because for me, it's helped just dramatically understand why, like, for example, Zori catches and chases birds and eats things because she's a hunter. That's her role in the pack. So we cannot keep weight on this dog. She's incredibly fast. She's athletic. She can move 6 ways to Sunday. And you start to understand that. So where we used to be like, holy crap, drop it. Now it's just like, hey, way to go.
Right.
I mean, and again, they're going to be who they are. So I'm very, very much interested in the functional characters, which then I really want to help people that are looking to get an animal, that maybe just got a new puppy, that they're looking to get a puppy, because you can use the functional characters to kind of like, assess the personalities in the pack, like who are the guides, who are the defenders, and overall, I want to help serve and help people match up well with their dog, and so that there's less returns to shelters. Oh, it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah. So somebody, Positive Training Zone, asked about how do you start presenting, and I think you just said just open the bottles and just let them be in the room with it, right?
Open the bottle, like I would like, have a bottle, and I would just like open it, and I would just hold it. And if one of them, if a dog came up to me, I would like probably approach him with the lid and just, put it in more of a spot to see if they wanted to come close. And if they did, then I would offer them the bottle. And do they really like want the bottle now? Because this is not as strong of a scent as this.
Right.
And so then if they did want the bottle, that's when I would take it and put it on like one of those perfume testing sticks.
Mm.
And then if they wanted to lick it, they could lick it. But again, you're putting a drop on a stick, so they're really only licking a drop of it.
All right.
Do you sell the oils, or do you?
I don't sell them, no.
Okay.
That would be great, though.Maybe I'll start like growing herbs and like making oils. That would be fantastic.
Oh, yeah, because there's plenty of time for that.
He's retired. It's fine.
Yeah, right.
I'm now officially unretired.
Yes.
So no, this is the interesting. Most of the people who are listening are retired, and they're busier now than they were when they were working. I bet you 90% of them are just.
I just retired from computer tech to start doing, helping serve the dogs and their guardians in the best way that I can find. So
Lynn had a really good, and this is a really good question, Lynn. She has a border collie with some kidney disease, and she's interested, and this is a right question, right? How she would support her dog with that disease, because she doesn't want to eat. And she's not looking to cure, she's looking to support her symptoms, which is wonderful question, Lynn.
It's a wonderful question. And my answer to her would be, I need more background. So email me at kim@radocanine.com, and, we can set up a Zoom consult and have a chat.
Yeah. And so I just put Kim's email in the comments boxes there. And also, if you can't find it or don't remember, contact me or Joanne and we'll get it to you. We'll give you that information. And we're hoping at some point, Kim can come and do a little workshop for us for your canine, and so we can get a little more in depth and really look at and watch some dogs and kind of get that information. So, but I think Kim's been doing this work for a long time, but now she took it to the next level, and she's really doing it for her unretirement.
Yeah, happy unretirement.
Yeah, that's right. Well, 2 months was long enough, young lady.
It was, I mean, and at some point there's so much interest in this subject, and there's so much care to be taken. Like I said, it's not a benign thing. And so that's what my goal is just to help as many people as I can to understand it better.
So
to be a conduit for knowledge, because I'm still learning, and Jim keeps laughing every day. A new book comes from Amazon. So
I know, right? It gets crazy. All right, everyone. Thank you for being with us tonight. I hope this was something you'd be interested in. And again, Kim is going to be doing this work full speed ahead. So if you're wanting to, and ultimately we might set up where maybe she can do some consults at our facility since she lives far, and so we can make that happen. So
yeah, and there's no website yet, but there's a domain. So
yeah.
If you build
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So
all right, you guys, thank you all so much.
Thanks, guys.
See you next time.